Let me now turn to Mr. Surinder Makhija. He is Strategic Advisor, Jain Irrigation Systems. For those of you who are not aware, Jain Irrigation Systems has been for long one of the pioneers in private sector enterprises which are engaged in micro irrigation and all other sorts of water delivery mechanisms. Mr. Makhija was also something very interesting to share with us. Over to him.
Good morning. Yeah, this one. Spring is here. The spring is here. Abundant doses of fragrance of roses. Enjoy your spring while you are in Delhi. Food security, a step towards ending hunger. That is my presentation. Food is the basic concern of all citizens, and food for all is the primary concern of all governments. This is the fountainhead of government policies world over. And there can be no peace where hunger exists. Adequate supply of cereals alone does not mean food security. In the present day context, in case we want to build a healthy nation, we have to add nutritional security as a part of food security. The essentials of food security, in my point of view, are availability, affordability, and sustainability. Availability. Are we producing enough? With intensive cultivation using better seeds, irrigation, mechanization, plant protection, and chemical fertilizers, etc., etc. And you will notice that I have highlighted the word irrigation because water for irrigation happens to be a natural resource, whereas the rest of the items can be created or manufactured by humankind, or mankind as such. So if we don't have enough water, maybe we can't have enough fertilizers, we can't have enough of the rest of the things. Affordability. Are we producing more with less inputs? And of course, there is this economic question of enabling people with buying power, purchasing power, and public distribution system. But that is not a part of this discussion of this track as such. Affordability also is linked with availability. In case we have enough materials, enough food materials, the prices are affordable. And the last is sustainability. Will there be enough resources at all times to ensure desired growth in food production? Are we taking care to conserve enough resources to ensure a sustained growth? This is a big question. And what are the challenges ahead? Increased population, and this is in the context of Indian scenario as such, from 1,250 million currently to about 1,500 million by 2050 or so. I just hope it stabilizes there only and no more than that. And corresponding increase in the food production from food demand from 280 million tons to about 450 million tons per year. And to meet the increased demand of fiber crops like cotton, jute maybe, and fodder. Fodder never actually appeared on the first 8 to 9 national plans in this country. But in case we want to ensure adequate supply of milk and meat in this country, we have to ensure that we have enough fodder. And this is again going to compete with the rest of the food chain. Particularly because with the mechanization, the earlier biomass that was available for as a fodder for the cattle, like wheat straw, now is getting reduced, availability is cut down. The challenges of adverse impact of climatic on climate on crop yields, this is something which is now staring at us. And yesterday, Dr. Pachauri had written a very beautiful article, The Full Planet and Empty Plates, on this issue. We have to really address our future planning, keeping in mind the adverse impact of the climatic changes on crop yields. And obviously, in case we want to increase our production from 280 million tons per year to 450 million tons, we have to enhance the area under irrigation from 78 million tons 78 million acres, hectares, I'm so sorry, 78 million hectares to about 120 million hectares, using same or less quantity of water. The water is a source of societal and regional and international conflicts. In India, 80% of water is used in agriculture, whereas in developed countries it's about 40 to 45%. And competing demand from other sectors in India will not allow this luxury to continue. We can't continue to take 80% water to agriculture. And therefore, the national policy on water envisages a 20% increase in the water use efficiency in agriculture sector. What's the way forward? We must conserve water and make optimal use in agriculture and other sectors. A 20% saving in agriculture sector will ease pressure on other sectors. Micro-irrigation combined with fertigation and skilled crop management can give 50 to 300% more in some crop yields as such, while using 30 to 70% water. That means there can be as much as 30 to 70% saving in water. And promote the use of micro-irrigation system to produce more with less. Israel is a prime example of this situation. This is a matrix of use of water world over, and you will see that in Europe, they use only 33% of the available water in agriculture. In Africa is 88%, and in India is about 82%, give and take a few percent here and there. The point is that if you take the water use as a matrix of development, we are far behind the developed countries. So what do? Harvest water and store water. Watershed management is a key issue, especially in the dryland farming areas, in the low rain-fed areas. And this water can be used for agriculture. And we must rehabilitate our existing irrigation system, which are highly inefficient, very poorly managed. And if we do that, we'll be able to definitely enhance the water use efficiency in these areas. Let us avoid this situation. Now, what is water use efficiency? If you go on Google, internet, you will find large number of definitions of water use efficiency, but to my mind, the best and most relevant at this forum is water use efficiency is a quantitative measurement of how much of biomass or yield is produced over a growing season, normalized with the quantity of water used in this process. Mr. Chairman, you have very rightly mentioned that we have been addressing the issue of land productivity, and we are not addressing the issue of water productivity or water use efficiency. And water use efficiency is a key indicator of how we really produce our crops using less and less water. Now, in this scenario, a highly subsidized electric power and irrigation, electric power and irrigation water charges are resulting in gross loss of water, wastage of water, subsidized fertilizers polluting the groundwater, and also causing high soil salination. To sum it, what was said in 1890 by a very renowned irrigation engineer is that it is not the quantity of water applied to a crop, it is a quantity of intelligence applied which determines the results. There is more due to intelligence than water in every case. So let us change, if the picture says enough, let us change from one situation to another, from wasting water in a very unorganized manner to a proper irrigated crop management systems. And micro-irrigation technology, in my opinion, holds the key to a sustainable agriculture. The picture says a lot by itself. We are applying water to the plants, not applying water to the land. We are not irrigating the land, we are irrigating the plants. It's a beautiful picture which indicates that water is released only near the plant root zone. It's not only water. You see, initially drip irrigation system was thought to be a water saving device, but now it is proven to be an yield enhancement tool. Drip irrigation system with proper infusion of micronutrients, a calibrated application of water and fertilizers can result in tremendous increase in the yield, as I will show in the next couple of slides. The time is less, so I'll just rush through these slides. And this is on the cotton crop. This is on the rice crop, which I'll address later on. How valuable the water is. In case we just place the value of 1 paisa on 1 liter of water, it will cost 1,20,000 to 1,80,000 to grow paddy in 1 hectare of land. That is the value of water, ladies and gentlemen, here. So that this slide shows the prospects of micro-irrigation in India. I'll rush through this. And what is the result? It's a win-win situation wherever we have. And this is not a result of a few trials here and there. It is now a reality in India. If you go anywhere, you will find that the farmers have benefited from using micro-irrigation system. Plastic mulch and dryland farming areas, using pipes in place of canals. Using pipes can help in irrigating difficult areas like hills. And this is, of course, using micro-irrigation systems in the canal command areas, as Mr. Deb had said that the canal command areas, irrigation efficiency is only about 30% or 38%. We can do that by using micro-irrigation systems at the outlets. Solar pumps are a good intervention. But the main thing is the 2 crops, sugarcane and rice, which need a tremendous amount of water. You see, an example is that only 3% of cultivated area in Maharashtra is in the sugarcane, but it consumes 60% of water. So the government of Maharashtra has made it mandatory that the farmers should use drip irrigation system in the new sugar mill command areas. The sugarcane production has gone up from 2.5 kg per meter cube of water under conventional irrigation system to as much as 21 kg per meter cube of water using subsurface drip irrigation system. And as on today, about 100,000 hectares of area in this country, in Maharashtra and Tamil Nadu, are under subsurface drip irrigation system. Paddy also is being done with drip irrigation system. Trials are being conducted, and we hope that sooner we'll be able to evolve some suitable protocol which will make using drip irrigation system on paddy also very productive as such. Time to ponder. This is what Mr. Kofi Annan said yesterday, that subsidized water and power takes away the value. And this is very important for us. So the government should intervene. The government intervention is required. They should make doable interventions. For example, recently in Punjab, the government of Punjab has made it mandatory that the farmers cannot sow rice before 15th of May. That is the onset of the pre-monsoon season. And this is going to cut down the withdrawal of groundwater for the sowing of the paddy crop. And I attended a lecture day for yesterday at one of the institutes here, where a doctor from Punjab had really proven that this initiative of government of Punjab is resulting in increase in the water level in the rice intensified areas. Now these are very small doable initiatives, and which the government of India or the government of Punjab or state government should follow. Now I believe the Haryana government also is following this initiative. Now we have to think differently. We need to think differently about water and its uses for food and energy. This is what Mr. Nakao, the president of Asian Development Bank, said yesterday at this forum. And we have to now think, just 2 minutes, sorry. About 30 years back, I gave you informally what was called as the water footprint. At a lecture at Central Institute of Agriculture Engineering at Bhopal, I had given this picture that it takes 160 liters of water to produce a slice of bread. And some 25 years later, a professor from University of London won the Stockholm Water Prize while doing further research on this issue. My point is that now it is recognized that there is something called water footprints, and we have to start thinking about baselining the water requirement of various crops and various activities in our life. So why not we do virtual water as a tradable commodity? As such, we are exporting rice. We are not actually exporting rice. We are exporting water. We are exporting virtual water. So, ladies and gentlemen, 30 years back I gave you something called as informal way water footprints, and today I like to introduce a new concept at this forum, and that is aqua credits. Like carbon credits, we have, I would like to introduce this term called aqua credits, and I hope someday this becomes a reality as such, and we can place value on certain quantity of water, virtual water that we use, and incentivize those people who actually use water-saving devices or water-saving methods, and let the people trade this as a tradable commodity, so that there is a certain amount of equitable distribution of the profits and the investments therein. More work needs to be done, and this is the august assembly of scientists and research people. I throw this issue to you, and it's over to you to work more on aqua credits. In conclusion, the traditional approach of crop production is not just sustainable. We make farming shift from peasant agriculture to agribusinesses, and this is bound to happen in this country sooner or later. Our farmers are going to be more educated, more alive, more literate, more aware about what they should do, produce more with less, specialized irrigation to replace flow irrigation through canals and channels. Revolutionary new approach needed, make virtual water a tradable commodity. Thank you very much for your patience listening.